Risk of Rain 2 has an exciting new DLC coming for the first time in well over a year. And what better time is there for new players to come pick up the game than now? Maybe you're somebody who's completely new to the roguelike genre, or you have a friend that you want to help get into the game. Hopefully this video can lay the basics and fundamentals for you to get into. I love Risk of Rain 2, it's in my top 10 of all time. I don't claim to be a great player, but I do have 200 hours into the game and all items and achievements unlocked. So I'll try to make this as accessible as I can and get as much people on board to try the game out. So Risk of Rain 2 is a roguelike and it has a very arcadey feel to it. If you've never played roguelike before, you'll be collecting loot, progressing through levels, until you eventually lose or win, and then you have to restart the entire run over. But you do keep certain unlockables that you unlock during that run. And while it's a simple premise, there's a lot of fun to be had in the random nature of the game and how powerful you can feel after collecting a ton of items. When you start off the game, you'll begin with two characters, Commando and Huntress. If you purchase the first DLC, Survivors of the Void, you'll also have access to Railgunner. I highly recommend getting Survivors of the Void, but if you don't want to get it or you don't own it, that's okay. It adds a lot of stuff that changes how the game is played, and I generally prefer playing with it on. And fun fact, you can still keep playing with Survivors of the Void so long as you're playing with someone who already owns it and has it turned on enabled in the lobby. You just won't permanently keep any items from it if you play solo. So back to Commando and Huntress, you'll notice that on both characters there are locked icons on their skills list. These are optional challenges that when completed, gain new alternate abilities. This is something that you want to pay attention to and work towards for all your characters as it can change how they're played and your enjoyment of them. For example, I personally don't like Huntress with her default abilities, but I like her for alternates. For new players, Commando is definitely the most basic to play. Huntress is also fairly simple, but you can just pick whatever survivor you want for now. You'll unlock more survivors later on, and also be sure to play on normal on your first playthrough or even drop it down to easy if you need to. Risk of Rain is simple on the surface, but can get pretty crazy the longer that a run progresses. Do note that I have every item unlocked as I mentioned before, and I'm playing with a friend. Your first run, especially if you're going solo, will be much harder and may take longer, so feel free to take the difficulty down a notch if you need to. When you're ready to start playing, you'll land on stage 1. Each stage, with the exception of stage 5, has a map pool that the game randomly selects from to determine the stage that you get. In this case, we're playing on Distant Roost, but you could also get these stages instead. You'll quickly figure out that you need to kill enemies to get money and use that money to open chests. When you open a chest, you'll get random loot of a random rarity. The rarities in this game go from white, common, green, uncommon, and red, legendary. Note that the chests you open can determine what item you get. Blue chests will give you a white, green, or red item randomly. Large chests will grant you a green item at minimum with a greater chance of giving you a red. A gold chest will guarantee you a red item. Multi-shops will offer 3 different items to pick from, with a question mark being a random item. Shrines of Chance will have a random chance to drop an item of any rarity or give you nothing. It can give up to 2 items, but every time you activate it, it will get more expensive, so try not to gamble too much.
Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it.
Lastly, an orange equipment barrel will grant you an equipment. The equipment will go into your Q key slot, and every time you press Q, it will activate that ability. Note that you can only have one equipment active at a time, and if you try to pick up another equipment, then it will drop your previous one. Items are the most essential part of understanding and playing Risk of Rain. Always pick up a white, green, or red item. There are basically no downsides in doing so, at least for now. Even seemingly bad items will have their uses eventually. If you happen to get duplicates of the same item, then the item will stack. That means that the item will have a greater effect. This is what the game can look like once you start to stack items like crazy. So don't be afraid to get dupes. White items generally grant basic passive effects such as faster running or a chance to deal double damage. They may not seem like much, but because they're so common that you're likely to stack tons of them, in which case they can get very oppressive. Green items can be generally more powerful, but they are not better per se than white items, as you can't stack them as easily. Red items tend to be very powerful, but due to how rare they are, you probably will only get like a few per run at most. There are other interactables that you also may encounter in a run. The ones that I'll point out for now are barrels, drone allies, printers, scrappers, Shrine of Blood, Shrine of Combat, and the Shrine of the Mountain. Barrels give you money upon opening them. Simple as that. You can use money to repair drones that you see scattered across the map, and they will help you fight enemies or heal you. They're okay. For printers, they will have an item hovering over that shows what item it will produce. You could potentially farm an infinite amount of that item in that printer, but you will have to randomly sacrifice at least one of your current items to gain the item in that printer. Note that you can only sacrifice items of the same rarity that the printer has. You can't sacrifice a white item to get a green printer's item, for example. But what if you don't want to sacrifice something potentially valuable? Well, that's where scrappers come into play. At a scrapper, you can select any item that you want to be turned into scrap of that rarity. Note that the scrapper will sacrifice every item in that stack. For instance, if I have 3 crowbars, it will turn instantly into 3 white scrap. When you're at a printer, the printer will prioritize the scraps first over all other items. As for the shrines, a shrine of blood will sap a percent amount of HP in exchange for money. A shrine of combat will immediately spawn enemies nearby you, and a shrine of the mountain will spawn more bosses during the teleport event, but will also cause the teleport to drop 1 additional item once you clear it. Note that there could be multiple mountain shrines, which each add 1 extra boss and 1 extra item. On the top right of your screen, you will see the difficulty and level of your enemies. While there is no time limit, the difficulty of the game will rise as time goes on. You don't need to loot every chest, but you shouldn't try and rush through the stage either. Just try and be mindful of how much time you're spending on each stage. Once you feel well looted, try to locate the teleporter. It may be difficult to find at first, and it's always random where it spawns, but there will be small glowing particles that indicate where the teleporter is. You can also use your ping key to mark it in case you want to come back to it later. Note that once you activate the teleporter, all interactables on the map will be locked until after the teleporter event is finished. After you activate the teleporter, a boss fight will begin and a giant red dome will appear over the teleporter. To charge the teleporter, you will need to stay within the dome until it reaches 100% on the top right, and you also have to kill the boss. You don't have to do both of them at the same time though. You can have the boss chase after you and run across the map if you need to if you're struggling to kill the boss in the red dome. Once the boss is slain, the teleporter will drop either a 1 green item or a yellow item. The power of a yellow item is based on the boss that you killed. Like I mentioned earlier, you receive additional dupes of the green or yellow if you happen to activate any mountain shrines. Now, you'll have to stay in the red dome and charge it while fending off enemies. Once it is charged to 99%, enemies will stop spawning. Before activating the teleporter to move on to the next stage, feel free to spend your money on any chests you haven't looted yet. The money you gain from this stage will not carry over to the next. For stage 2, 3, and 4, it's basically the same from here. Keep killing enemies and looting up until you're ready to activate the teleporter. The stages differ in secrets, so explore and see if there's anything that you can find. Now, let's talk about death. If you happen to fall off the map or from a high height, you won't die, but you can take a lot of damage. You'll regenerate HP over time after taking damage from anything, but if you die, the run is over and you'll need to progress all over again from stage 1. However, anything you unlocked from that run will now be permanently accessible for later runs. Items and characters are unlocked by doing challenges. You'll get some of them passively just by playing the game, but some of them will require you to go out of your way to get them. Note that the progress of some challenges carry over multiple runs, while others may need you to do it in a single run. The survivors that are the most easily accessible or most obvious to unlock are Bandit, Multi, Engineer, Loader, Captain, and Artificer. Now as you play, you may notice enemies dropping these large blue coins. These are called Lunar coins, which is a currency that is permanently yours to keep and spend. You can use it to open random lunar pods, which grant blue items that have an amazing effect at the price of having a hefty negative. An example of this is Shaped Glass, which doubles your damage but has your HP. You'll have to determine whether or not you think these items are worth having. Additionally, you might find a new altar, which is located randomly on each map. It costs 1 lunar coin to activate, and when you complete the teleport event, you'll see a blue portal open up. Go through it, and it will transport you to the Bazaar between time. At the Bazaar, you have the option to obtain blue items, sacrifice 3 white items for a green, or 5 greens for a red. You can also use lunar coins to select the exact map you want for the next stage. And for 10 coins, you can unlock Artificer, who's sitting next to the newt in the middle. The most important new altar is on stage 3, because you want to be able to select a map for stage 4. Each map for stage 4 has a hidden legendary chest, with the exception of Siren's Call. On Siren's Call, there will be these egg things for you to destroy, and if you destroy a certain amount of them, it will spawn a boss. Defeat the boss, and not only will you get a red item, but the first time you defeat it, you also unlock the Survivor Loader. Now we'll reach the penultimate stage of the game, stage 5. Stage 5 will always be Sky Meadows, and here you'll have to make an important decision. You'll notice that the teleporter here looks different than normal. If you interact with it from the middle like normal, it will be brought to the final stage in the game, stage 6. If you interact with it from the side, it will cause the teleporter to shift. When you activate the teleporter now, it will cause the event to proceed like normal, but when you go to the teleport at the end, it will transfer you back to stage 1, where you'll keep your items in current difficulty. This is known as looping. This is your chance to get more items to prepare for stage 6, try to unlock any secrets or challenges that you may have missed, or to simply see how long you can keep going. You can loop as many times as you like, as long as you keep interacting with the teleporter on Sky Meadows on the side, but do note that looping will get very, very difficult as you keep going. When you get back to stage 3, or I guess stage 8, you'll also see a celestial portal. If you choose to go through it, you'll notice a brief parkour section. Complete it and you'll see this giant stone to interact with. Interacting with it will cause you to obliterate and your run will end. You will also unlock Mercenary the first time that you do this. But let's go back to proceeding through the teleport like normal though. If you choose to go through stage 6, you'll notice the layout of the map is very different. There's a ship encased in a bubble nearby. There are no chests here, and the enemies are especially deadly, so proceed with caution and haste. There are also interactables here to gain some more reds and greens if you want. You'll notice these beacons of light which indicate a pillar. You'll have to charge at least 4 pillars to progress. Pillars can vary in what they want you to do. You don't need to activate one of each, you can mix and match them, and just 4 pillars of any kind will do. Once 4 pillars are completed, a beacon of light will indicate a launch pad for you to go on. Hop on the launch pad and don't move, it'll bring you straight up. Here, I actually recommend you stop watching the video for a bit and go into the final boss blind. He's a really fun fight and is most likely going to destroy you. Nearly every player I know who fights him for the first time dies. Hell, I still struggle with him sometimes even now, so here's your spoiler warning. In case you don't care about spoilers or got destroyed, allow me to introduce you to Mithrix. He's incredibly fast and has a crazy moveset. You'll have to constantly run and jump to avoid his attacks and shockwaves. Once you deplete his health bar, he will spawn a whole bunch of enemies for you to fight. These guys can prove difficult in high numbers, so don't take them lightly. After this, phase 3 starts where Mithrix is even more aggressive and enemies spawn to aid him. He also showcases his infamous pizza cutter move, which gets a lot of first time players. Once this phase is finished, he will take all of your items and use them against you. At this point, even just a few hits will probably spell death depending on what items he took from you. It'll be tough dodging him with how slow you are, but once you gain your items back by damaging him, he's as good as dead. After he's finished, you'll have to go through the portal and come back to the ship before the time runs out. You'll defend and charge the ship while fending off enemies. You'll notice that void enemies who, when defeated, drop these black holes that will one-shot you if you're inside of them. Play safe and be cool, and you'll have this win in the bag. And with that, the run is over. It'll probably take you a few runs before you're able to get a win depending on your luck and how good you are. Fortunately, the more times that you play, the more options you'll have for your next run. If you find yourself asking, what do I do now after beating the game, well, there's tons for you to do. There's secret areas, secret bosses, artifact trials that require hitting codes on stage 5 that I didn't even get into, and they unlock modifiers that you could use in your future runs potentially. Tons of characters on unlockable abilities can make new runs feel fresh. Multiplayer makes the game feel even more chaotic, and the Survivors of the Void DLC adds a ton and changes how the game is played further. And if you manage to finish all of this somehow, there's tons of mods for you to start playing with. There's so much to do in this game once you get really into it, and I love seeing how crazy runs can get and going as long as I can. With the new DLC Secrets of the Storm, there will be even more stuff to play around with. Hopefully this video was able to help somebody, even though I know the reach will probably be very small due to being a completely new channel. Please share and like this video if you feel like it's helpful, or leave a comment if you feel like there's something I missed. This wasn't the best guide of all time, so there's definitely stuff that I could have covered. I'll be making regular videos when the DLC is out with guides, rankings, and other stuff, so please stay tuned for that. Have a good day.